Terrifying collision of, well, art and just absolute brutal reality.
Mm.
We're looking at the sources around Octavia Frost. She's this celebrated, quite intellectual novelist, and her life just gets violently derailed.
Yeah, because her son, Milo Frost, a rock star, is accused of murder.
Exactly. The murder of his girlfriend, Bettina. It's the ultimate nonfiction crisis for a writer who is, interestingly, obsessed with changing narratives.
Completely. And our sources, they're really varied here. Police reports, Octavia's own thoughts, even drafts of her fiction. They show this woman just frantically trying to figure out if truth, like a novel's ending, can somehow be rewritten.
Right. So that's our mission today, isn't it? To unpack all these different competing stories swirling around the case.
You've got the police facts, which seem straightforward at first.
Then the media hysteria.
Ah.
Absolute circus.
Don't forget the victim's mother. Her narrative is very carefully constructed.
And Octavia's own desperate search for any sliver of doubt. We really want to show you how just a few small details can completely destabilize what looks like a fixed outcome.
And, interestingly, we need to start not actually with the crime itself, but with Octavia's writing just before the arrest.
Ah, the Nobodies Album.
Exactly. This really unusual project where she revisited all 7 of her published novels and just completely rewrote the final chapter for each one.
I found that absolutely fascinating. I mean, why go back and change something that's already out there, finished?
Well, for her, the final product was never really final. Her philosophy, and it's quite beautiful actually, is that she found there's no statute of limitations on changing your mind. She genuinely believed rewriting those endings changes everything that came before. It retroactively makes you question all the certainties in the story. It's her way of saying nothing's truly set in stone.
And the way she delivered it, it was almost like this ritual. She didn't just email it.
No. She flies from Boston to New York to hand-deliver this stack of paper, hand to hand. She insisted on the, quote, humanity of this exchange.
Wow.
It's this wonderful sort of absurd gesture of control, isn't it? Trying to imbue this physical object with all the effort, the weight of the revision.
Even though she knew, realistically.
Oh, she knew. She knew the second she left, it'd probably just be tossed onto a desk, like any other piece of mail.
But doesn't that intense focus on changing literary pasts become, the ultimate professional irony here?
How so?
She's obsessed with proving outcomes aren't fixed, right as her own life slams into this undeniable, horrific reality, her son's murder charge. It feels like she's trying to use fiction's tools on the real world.
That's a great point, precisely. That need for narrative control for an alternative ending, it gets immediately tested by just the brutal fixed facts of the actual case.
Okay, so let's get into those facts. Bettina Moffat's death. What do we know for sure?
She was found in the home she shared with Milo. Her skull was crushed. The weapon, a 10-pound exercise weight.
And the housekeeper found her, which adds this almost soapy element. But the crucial physical detail is the door was locked from the inside.
Right. And when the police get there, they find Milo. He's on the couch, clearly dazed, maybe hungover, maybe blacked out, and he has dried blood on his hands, on his face.
So the simplest narrative just clicks into place immediately. For the police, for the media.
Absolutely. And that simple narrative needed a motive, which came out later. Milo eventually told his mother through this sort of patchy memory.
Right, he couldn't remember everything clearly.
No, but he remembered confessing to Bettina the night before. He told her he had a secret daughter, Leah, who was 3 years old.
A daughter with Chloe Treese, Joe Kahn's girlfriend, the bandmate's girlfriend.
The very same. And that confession led to a huge argument. Bettina was leaving him.
So the fight, the breakup, the betrayal, that becomes the tidy motive everyone jumps on.
Exactly. And the second the public knew who the alleged killer was, this famous rock star, the media machine just turned his whole career against him.
Right. His back catalog suddenly becomes this treasure hunt. Looking for any sign of violence, any misogyny. It shows how fast art gets twisted into supposed evidence.
Oh, they dug up everything. Lyrics from obscure tracks like Saskatchewan, you name it. But the really damaging stuff, the lines everyone seized on, came from his big hit, Dazzle Lights.
Those lyrics are rough.
They're specific, describing a fight where the speaker tells his girlfriend, and I'm quoting, "I grabbed you hard. There was no one else around. I'll tell you now, I could have beat you to the ground."
Oof. If the media finds that, the jury's going to hear it. That's just devastating.
Absolutely. And then compounding everything is the moment Milo actually says it to his mother. "I did it, Mom. I think I killed her."
That I think.
That quasi-confess, it's the worst thing for Octavia. Because even with the I think, the words are out there. His memory's patchy, fragmented, maybe a blackout, but he said it.
And this is where Octavia's own work becomes just so eerily relevant, isn't it? Her whole career exploring the ambiguity of memory.
Especially her novel The Human Slice. Remember that? About the fictional epidemic, WSA.
Widespread selective amnesia, where painful memories just vanish.
Exactly. It's like the ultimate meta-commentary on her situation. She literally invented a fictional way for characters to erase trauma, WSA, to protect them from pain.
And now her son.
Her son is suffering a very real version. Trauma-induced memory loss, what some might call motivated forgetting. His mind is actively hiding the details of that night. Protecting him, maybe, but also leaving his own uncertain admission as the main piece of truth for the court.
Wow. And while she's grappling with that, this bizarre clue surfaces, almost like something out of a spy novel.
The sugar bowl. Joe Kahn, Milo's bandmate, he gives Octavia this porcelain sugar bowl, this girlfriend's apparently. And inside there's a note, just 3 words.
Someone is lying.
Cryptic, right. At first you think, okay, maybe it's the real killer trying to frame Milo.
But it turns out to be more complicated.
Much more. When you dig into it, you find out Bettina's mother, Kathy Moffat, actually used that exact phrase in conversation around that time.
Huh.
And that Bettina and Roland Naismith, this man who thought he was her father for years, they used that specific sugar bowl for games when she was a kid.
So the note, it's not pointing to a killer necessarily. It's pointing towards the complexity, the untrustworthiness of all the stories being told.
Precisely. And speaking of stories, the most aggressive public narrative comes from the victim's mother, Kathy Moffat.
Right. She takes control immediately. The funeral becomes this media event, part grief, part launch party for her new foundation, Bettina's house.
And she successfully positions Milo as the clear-cut, definitive abuser. End of story.
But looking closely at the source material, you see her narrative is built on some pretty significant omissions.
She talks about trying to help Bettina pack, regretting leaving her alone that night, standard grieving mother stuff.
But she leaves out Milo returning drunk earlier and smashing a planter on the stairs, which is violent, yes, but it wasn't directed at Bettina.
And even more critically, she omits the late-night phone call.
That call feels crucial. Bettina apparently told Milo they should sleep on it before making any final decisions about the breakup.
Which completely undermines Kathy Moffat's narrative, doesn't it? Her story needs Bettina to be the resolved victim, fleeing the abuser, locking the door. But that phone call suggests things were still fluid, unresolved.
And complicating the fixed story is exactly what Milo's defense lawyer, Sam Zalekis, starts doing. He can't rely on Milo's memory, so he has to look elsewhere.
He looks for physical contradictions,
Yeah.
starting with the blood spatter analysis.
Okay, forensics. How does this break the simple plot?
Well, the police assumed a direct overhead hit with the weight. If you do that, standing right over the victim, the blood spatter creates a very distinct high-velocity pattern, sort of a cone shape.
Right.
But the analysis here showed something different, a pattern that suggested the impact wasn't a direct vertical hit from someone standing right there.
So why is that significant for us, for the listener?
It matters because it challenges the core assumption. Milo, standing there, weight in hand, delivering the blow. It injects ambiguity exactly where the prosecution sees certainty.
The killer wasn't positioned where they assumed the killer had to be.
Exactly. It opens the door, maybe not literally since the room was locked, but it opens the door to another possible scenario. It creates doubt.
But the final piece of evidence, the one that really shatters the motive they constructed, comes right near the end of our deep dive. And it's a detail Milo himself had completely forgotten.
It's what Joe Kahn remembers. Remember, the whole motive rested on that intense argument after Milo confessed about his daughter, leading to Bettina leaving him. That argument was supposedly the catalyst for everything.
The breaking point.
Right. But Joe reveals something stunning. Bettina received a voicemail from a potential client after Milo had apparently proposed marriage to her.
He proposed. He'd forgotten he even proposed.
He had forgotten. But the message was time-stamped on her phone. It proves their conversation, their relationship status, continued past the point where the fixed narrative said it was definitively over. She was considering a work project after the proposal.
Wow, so that single detail just, it destroys the timeline. The simple breakup leads straight to murder idea is gone.
Completely shattered. If they argued, then he proposed, and then she was dealing with work stuff. The motive collapses. The timeline isn't a straight line anymore. It's messy, complex. And the fixed, brutal fact of her death suddenly needs a whole different explanation.
And to really understand why Milo's memory is so fragmented, why he might confess even with doubt, we have to look back, way back, to the defining tragedy of Octavia's life.
Yosemite, 1992. The drowning deaths of her husband Mitch and her daughter Rosemary in the Merced River.
That trauma is it's the bedrock of their family's grief. Such a horrific accident, stemming from such a small thing.
A squabble between the kids over Milo's binoculars. Rosemary falls into that incredibly swift, channelized water. Mitch jumps in to save her. Both lost. The park workers even commented on how fast it happens there.
It's just permanent, raw grief. And Milo, years later, he actually wrote about it in his music, which just shows how deep that pain runs.
His song, Traitor in the Backseat, it talks directly about the road trip before the accident, even the fight itself. You call me a retard, I call you a gnome. So personal.
Now imagine that incredibly raw personal pain being dug up and twisted by the media to frame him as damaged goods, potentially violent, using past trauma to justify the present crisis.
It's brutal. And what's really poignant now is the discovery of Milo's own daughter, Leah. Octavia notes she looks uncannily like Rosemary did at that age.
So Milo's facing this ultimate test of fatherhood.
But he's hesitant. Deeply hesitant, because of the trial, obviously, but also because of that lingering catastrophic trauma of losing Rosemary. He's terrified of repeating disaster, maybe feels cursed or inherently dangerous.
Like he can't trust himself around a child.
His motivated forgetting. Maybe it's not just protecting him from the murder charge. Maybe it's also protecting him from that original loss. The day he lost his sister and father, a day that started with a fight over his binoculars. He can't process being a father while he's still trapped in that moment.
Okay, so let's pull this all back together. We started with this author, Octavia, and her abstract literary desire to rewrite endings.
Right, the 7 novels in the Nobodies album.
And we plunged into the granular, terrifying reality of a murder investigation where truth is just aggressively manipulated by trauma, by publicity, by people's self-serving narratives.
Yeah, that initial simplicity rock star kills girlfriend in a breakup rage.
Yeah.
It got systematically dismantled. Tiny details did it.
A weird blood spatter pattern.
The omission of a crucial phone call.
The existence of a forgotten marriage proposal. The truth is just so much messier than any of Octavia's carefully crafted fictional endings ever were.
Definitely. We've seen how all the stories people tell themselves, the media's villain narrative, Kathy Moffat's perfect victim story, even Milo's own blank memory, they all start to crumble under scrutiny.
They get replaced by shifting timelines, cryptic clues like that sugar bowl note. Someone is lying. Maybe everyone is, in a way.
It really forces you to acknowledge that finding the truth often feels less like closing a book, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And more like opening 7 new ones simultaneously. Which brings us back to Octavia's own realization about her writing.
Yes, that core question she wrestled with. We want to leave that with you, the listener, to sort of mull over.
If you're never truly done revising, if the ending is never fixed, then what exactly are the point of beginning in the first place?
Does this whole process, the deep investigation we've done, or maybe even the act of living itself, does it ever really lead to one single fixed ending? Or does every discovery just crack open 7 different stories for you to follow?